hits just keep on coming for Harry and Meghan, because Meghan's been accused of faking some of the interviews that she did in her podcast for Spotify. Surely not. The couple's deal was worth around 18 million quid. I would do anything for 18 million quid, but that says more about me, I think. But it was terminated after just one series, and now the American website Pod News says it's heard from multiple sources that some of Meghan's interviews were done by other people with her questions edited in afterwards. On top of that, a senior Spotify executive has called Harry and Meghan grifters. There was another word that he used before grifters, but it is just about to go 4:30 and we can't use it. Joining me now is royal commentator Caroline Aston. Caroline, thank you very much. Great to have you on the show. I mean, this is shocking if true, isn't it? Meghan Markle, for 18 million quid, couldn't even be bothered to interview people herself. Surely not.
Well, quite. And here we have another subplot in the saga that is Sussex life. Yes, and it's a nasty feeling, isn't it, that only some of the glitterati that were featured in the podcast were actually glittering enough to be interviewed by the Duchess herself. There's a kind of hint of diva-ish stuff there, that you had to be at a certain level to be in her presence. Otherwise, an intermediary would do the job for her. And then she, as you say, was edited in. You wouldn't believe it. And the grifters, well, that's a story that's going to run and run in America, I think. Not good, as Meghan, of course, attempts to relaunch her brand, her image as the face of Dior, having, of course, conveniently sent her husband, Prince Harry, along to the coronation for a brief visit, but a brief visit where he was dressed in, guess what? Dior. What else?
Oh, my gosh. I mean, it all comes together, doesn't it, this, really? But why would any brand want to work with her if you just hand over 18 million quid and then she gets some poor runner or whatever to interview someone who's still very famous, but, of course, is not on her level? This is just an absolute mick take, isn't it?
Well, hugely divisive. There's more than a whiff of Marmite about the Sussex brand. You either love it or you don't think much to it at all, or sometimes you even wish it would go away altogether. And I think Dior are going out on kind of a commercial limb here, because there's been lots of stuff out there online, people saying, well, that's it. I'll never buy a Dior bag or Dior perfume or indeed anything Dior, because I don't want to put more money into the coffers that run Camp Montecito. It's as simple as that. Dior may come to regret this, and I think Meghan herself is going to be very much under the microscope in the days and weeks ahead. Will Netflix drop them as well?
Well, why not? I mean, there appears, although I'd be gutted if Netflix dropped them, I don't like to go on about this, Caroline. In fact, thanks for bringing it up, but I was actually in that Netflix documentary a couple of times. But I get embarrassed talking about it, so we'll move on. But every single time that Meghan especially pipes up with something, there appears to be a story in the immediate aftermath that either proves or strongly indicates that it's not true. You know, you can literally rattle off countless examples here, whether it's with the car, whether it's with the racism, whether it's whatever. She doesn't like to be called a diva, and she accuses people of racism, really, whenever they dare to criticise her. But in all of this now, it would appear that she hasn't worked very hard for her 18 million quid and has actually fundamentally lied to the audience, if this is true, who think that they are getting Meghan Markle interviewing someone, when in fact they had a producer and Meghan Markle dubbed in afterwards.
Absolutely. But how very short-sighted and how very trusting to think that this wouldn't eventually leak out, as it has done. And I think all the way through this 3-year period since the Great Escape to Montecito, to the sunlit climes of California, there have been some really big hiccups in the PR that these two have used. They've fired people, they've hired people, and just somehow they managed to fall short all the while. I mean, looking at Harry's visit over here the other week to the Mirror Group newspaper trial, again, his whole attitude, demeanour, there's just this hint all the time of being entitled, of being privileged, and sadly, Patrick, out of touch with what's really going on outside the bubble that is their world. Don't forget, they still owe some books as well, the Penguin Random House book deal. And Harry did tell us that there were 400 pages of spare that ended up on the cutting room floor. So brace yourself for that. Come to think of it, though, Patrick, where is Harry? He's gone very, very quiet.
Yeah, they appear to be doing less and less together, and I wonder what happens there. Caroline, can I thank you from the bottom of my heart for agreeing to do an actual, real, face-to-face interview with me in person? It's a novelty. I don't know, Meghan obviously isn't aware that this kind of format exists, but there we go. Caroline, thank you, as ever. Caroline Aston, who's a royal commentator, a fascinating font of royal knowledge as well. Good stuff.